What's the dumbest thing you actually believed? I was once told that British TV presenter Jeremy Beadle's hand had such small fingers because of a condition, Poland syndrome, that meant he had to have his fingers replaced, and that his fingers were, in fact, pig's toes. For years, this was a piece of obscure general knowledge that I would break out when I felt the need to display the breadth of my weird knowledge. And it went down really well until the days someone finally said, "Don't pigs have hooves?" I don't know that I had ever experienced such a moment of butt-clenchingly cringy brain and edit. I can't believe my confession of dumbery got me a gold. That being named Johnny was a sin. There's a part of the song "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" that goes, "My name's Johnny and it might be a sin, but I'll take your bet." I instantly associated the name with being a sin, not making bets with the devil. This made me think kids named Johnny were sons of devil worshippers. I was a very dumb kid. I grew up in a Jewish household but was aware of the whole Christmas thing. It was my understanding that Santa would go around bringing gifts to kids if they left out a plate of cookies and some milk for him. Seemed easy enough. 'Twas the night before Christmas and I left the perfect food arrangement out for Santa, thinking in spite of my religious beliefs, he might leave me a gift in exchange for the snacks. When I awoke the next morning, the cookies and milk were gone but no present was left. I was furious. How dare this jolly fat man come into my hole, steal my food and not leave anything in return. I spent years complaining about it and would curse the man's name if I saw him. Of course, years later my dad admitted that he had eaten everything. Thanks, Dad. That WD-40 meant windows down, 40 miles per hour. Someone told me that in middle school as a joke and I took it literally until I was a senior. I used to be so confused about the amount of time it would take to make movies because I was convinced they did it all in chronological order, and when they did flashbacks to childhood, I was like, wow, those actors are so committed. Or I would think it must take a long time for their hair to grow or change in any way and never considered it could be a wig. Lol, edit. Yes, I have heard of the movie Boyhood. It came out when I was 22, so well past my perception of movies being made that way, but it definitely reminded me of this when I first heard of it, and I thought it was really cool that someone actually did that. I used to think that they cast people into TV shows and movies by finding people with the characters' names on the street and having them act. Thought this for a good few years until a Disney Channel actress appeared on a different show with a different character and I found out her name was neither of the characters. Here's the list so far. I firmly believed from ages 3 to 8 that every single night, little elves would march around my bed until morning, and that if I dangled my foot off the bed, they would eat my toes. My mum told me that midnight was the witching hour, so if I didn't go to sleep by then, I would get kidnapped by witches. My mum also told me that if I didn't clean my room, snakes would raid my room because they were attracted to the mess. I also thought that a witch stood behind my bed each night, and if any bit of hair strayed from my pillow, she would take a piece for her spells. As you can imagine, I didn't sleep very well as a child. I thought sugar grew in sugar caves, similar to salt caves. I believed that sugar crystals, like rock candy, just grew in caves, and there were parts of the world with beautiful crystallized sugar caves. I was 25 years old when I brought it up in conversation with my fiance. I tried to prove to him they were real, and it was when I reached my 4th page on Google, I realized my whole world was a lie. Edit. Oh wow, thank you for all the comments and awards. Really appreciated. Just some more background. When I was growing up, my parents always have these crystal sugar sticks to use in their tea, and I guess as a kid, I just believed this was sugar in its raw form. Especially as it looked like the rock crystals. I've never thought about it or questioned it, as the topic of sugar origins never got brought up. Imagine someone telling you that something you always believed wasn't right, like wool came from trees not sheep. Wouldn't you be on the 4th page of Google too? Many people have been asking why I didn't learn about this at school as sugar canes, as there were sugar plantations during American slavery. I grew up in the UK and unfortunately were not taught about American history or the slave trade in history. I know loads about the Tudors though. I will do more research and educate myself on this, as I knew about cotton plantations but not sugarcane plantations. And yes, coming from the UK, I knew about treacle mines, and the ironic thing is that I couldn't understand how anyone could believe them. I was convinced that Greeks still worshipped Zeus and other gods for a while after I heard the word Greek Orthodox Church as a kid. I thought that teachers lived at school. I thought Churchill was an architect because when I was little my mum told me he was one of the architects of Israel. When I was little, I genuinely believed the Teletubbies were evil and that if I didn't watch them on TV every night, even though I hated the show, that they would come and get me. To be fair though, they're kind of creepy. I used to think that people exclusively wore hats if they were bald, because that's why my dad wore a hat. The dark meat and white meat come from two different birds. I was 12 when they asked me, as they did each year at Thanksgiving, which kind of meat I wanted. That year, I said, dark meat, please. But I feel bad, I'm the only one who really eats it and you always have to get an entire second turkey just for me. I'm still teased about it to this day. At 46 years old. As a kid, I thought that the world wars were like battle royales where there were no alliances, no surrenders, and just pure bloody violence between every country on earth. E.g. I thought every country fought all of its neighbors simultaneously. When I was 6 I watched a movie, King Kong, and a scene with a bunch of black folks emerging from the mud appeared and I got a bit spooked by it. A bit later, I was at McDonald's with my parents and I saw a black family walk in. Thank God my parents are deaf or I would have asked, out loud, why are the mud people here? Mum thought I was racist but I was just a bit inexperienced, lol. Someone convinced me for like 5 seconds that unicorns were real. They just lost their horns through evolution and now they are plain old horses. When I was a kid I used to think professional wrestling was real, and The Undertaker scared the living s out of me during his whole Ministry of Darkness phase. I thought he actually was Satan's minister or something. Like yeah, he's an undead overlord of hell, here to bring an eternity of darkness and misery to this planet, but he also has to make a weekly television appearance to win a wrestling competition, and you can buy his action figure at Toys R Us. That I could smell something while underwater. When I was around 10-12 years old I was in a tropical themed water park where also happened to be a herbal bath. It smelled very nice, which I had not expected. Most of the tropical plants were fake plastic plants, so I figured the water in the bath was normal swimming pool water and the smell was coming from something else. The bath was surrounded with a small aromatic herb garden which didn't look fake. I sneakily took a sample from a thyme plant that felt surprisingly real. But because the air was filled with all the different aromas and a hint of chlorine I couldn't smell anything different when I tried to smell the thyme. I figured the only place where my sense of smell couldn't be fooled by any fakery was underwater. For 5 seconds I actually felt pretty smart. Until I tried. Edit. Wow, thanks for the awards and upvotes, this makes my day. I wish I could answer the question about the smell underwater, but I found out it doesn't work like that. As soon as the water entered my nose I noticed the flaw in my plan and the irony of it all. My head came up immediately, all while laughing, because I felt so smart with my waterproof plan a second ago, and coughing, which only made it worse and resulted in another gulp of water going in the opposite direction. No physical damage indeed, some people describe how this works in the comments and as others said, it hurts a bit, but not too long. Glad to see some of you also tried to experiment with their airways underwater, even though our results probably never will lead to a scientific breakthrough. Let us never be dumber than that again. That reindeer wasn't an actual animal but specifically a mythical animal that Santa Claus used. I believed this until I was 23 or so when I saw some nature documentary talking about reindeer. I was like, what? My father and I used to mess with my sister as she was growing up. When she saw an orange tree for the first time, the oranges were unripe and very green. We then told her that all of the citrus fruits came from the same tree, and depending on when you picked them, that was the fruit you got. They started as limes, then ripened into lemons, which would grow into oranges, and then if left too long would grow into grapefruits. She graduated with honors from a major state university this year. We found out that she still believed this during our family trip to Mexico last spring, 2019, when we had to break the news to her. I used to think they dropped the ball at Times Square multiple times for each USA time zone. I just aimed people stuck around for the extra ball drops cause they were all drunk and having fun. Hilarious edit. Worth mentioning that I believed this until I was an adult and had my East Coast wife let me down easy. Another edit. Thanks for my very first award. Seems a fitting one for this post. That if you ask someone if they're a police officer, they have to tell you the truth. There are still people who believe this. Whoever started this urban legend is a genius. As a kid, my sister told me that we had an older brother that died. She said he died when playing bowling and his fingers didn't come out the ball and slid all the way down the alley, then he turned into a skittle. More so naive and innocent rather than dumb, but still funny. My dad used to tell us kids that a dwarf little person worked in and operated every car park barrier in the world. Every time he drove up to one, he'd press the button for the ticket and say, "Cheers mate, how's the wife?" and fake a conversation as he waited for the barrier to open. Lol. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.